So today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We're going to discuss WordPress malwares. And in this regard, we're going to divide the video into two parts. The first part will be showing examples of infected WordPress websites. Infected websites, okay. Specifically, we're going to show how to find out if your WordPress website is infected, and the scenarios I'm going to lay down are one for crypto malwares. Additionally, we're going to talk about redirection malwares, and lastly, we're going to see an example of reverse shell setup on an infected WordPress website. In the next part, we're going to talk about cleaning an infected site. So the cleaning an infected site, we can use automated methods, or we can use a more reliable way, which is the manual. Okay, so briefly, we're going to see how a website would act or behave in every scenario. So in the case of crypto malwares, your website will open normally. You won't notice anything wrong. But from in the underlying infrastructure of your website, you're going to see spikes in the resources consumption, specifically in the CPU and the RAM. Because usually when a crypto malware infects a WordPress site, it's going to use all of the resources. It's going to tax the website to try to mine for cryptocurrencies. So your site will open normally, but it might affect your server performance. So if you see problems in the performance of your server, you might need to check out what is causing the excessive resource consumption. In the case of redirection, it's pretty straightforward. Instead of opening your site will forward to a different site. It could be, most of the time, it is pharmaceutical, Viagra stuff. And here in the reverse shell, again, your site will open normally, but behind the scenes, it is connecting to the attacker machine through the listener or the reverse shell. Okay, now in the cleaning phase, we can use automated method and manual method. In the automated method, we can rely on WordPress plugins, security plugins. An example would be WordFence. Sucuri is another example. So what you would do when you find out that your WordPress site is infected, you're going to perform a full scan with WordPress or Sucuri and find out what are the infected files. Then you can choose either to go delete them by yourself or by opting to auto-delete them using WordPress or Sucuri. But this would actually risk you losing some important design elements of your site, so it's better to have a backup. And the manual method, in the manual method, we're going to dig deep into the WordPress root directory. So basically, most of the time, WordPress is located under var html, and inside this you will have the root files, or the main files, such as wp-config. You will have the index, you will have the wp/content directory. So all of your WordPress files will be found here. In the manual method, there are certain files we can look into to see if they were infected, and then we can choose the course of action. Now, most of the time, when a WordPress site is infected, you would want to take a look at these key files in your WordPress installation. The first one is wp-config. make sure there are no weird strings or base64 stuff inside this file. Next, you want to check index. The index file, especially when you are suffering from redirection malware. Most of the time, a redirection malware would write redirection stuff or weird strings in the index. The third, this time it's not going to be file, it is actually the directory. You will want to look at the wb-content. Specifically, you will want to take a look at the plugins and the themes. In there, you want to see if there are weird looking themes or weird looking directories or files. For example, you would find under the plugins, you would find a directory named 391 like this. There is no plugin that would have a name as such. Likewise, in the themes, we're going to take examples, but I want to list all of them here for your reference. Now, 4, which is interesting, is the htaccess. You also want to look at the htaccess to see if there are weird looking strings or calls to DNS domains. Most of the time, these malwares are actually smart. So when you look in these target files, you will not see clearly plain text strings. Most of the time, they are encoded in base64. Something happened to my Word. Yeah, so base64. They use various encoding methods to hide or obfuscate the nature of the malware. Okay, now if you want to ask me, what is the reliable method in cleaning an infected WordPress site? Well, it depends on your environment and depends on your workflow. Say, for example, that you have discovered the infection on maybe 25 March. Okay, you just have discovered the infection on this date. So what you would do, you want to go back and take a look at the most recent reliable backup. So you have the most recent, so you don't lose the saved work, and should be reliable. Meaning, you have to take this backup, test it on a separate environment, make sure everything is okay, and then you can deploy it back and have the site restored from a clean backup. That's the clean backup method, which is the most effective method and the most recommended one. Why? Because at least you make sure that you don't lose your saved work. If you want to clean your site using security plugins or by manually deleting infected files, well, that's not wrong, and most of the time it works, but again, you are risking losing some saved work and design elements. Because imagine that if the malware spreads across different files of your WordPress installation, some malwares would write the base64 encoded strings and the stuff into config file, the access, the plugins, the themes. So you'll have to go through every single file and delete the weird looking strings or the malicious calls. This is time consuming, and it is actually not reliable enough because you still are not sure 100% that you have cleaned up everything. So my opinion, you resort to the manual method. Okay. Oh, sorry for this. So my advice, keep the manual method of cleaning your WordPress site to the end. If you have a clean backup, start with a clean recent backup, okay? And then you can try with the automated method. Use Wordpress or Sucuri to scan for infected files, okay? Now, if you got problems with the design elements or you lost some saved work, at least you can build them back up, right? The manual method will be kept at the very end because it requires an expertise and it is time consuming. Now let's show real examples of WordPress sites infected with malware. So as you can see, guys, this is a WordPress, a test site, and here there is Wordpress plugin. I did a full scan by clicking on Start a New Scan, and I found that Wordpress has actually discovered malicious files. Take a look at the results. File appears to be malicious or unsafe, and you can see the name of the file, index. Index is located at the root of your WordPress installation folder. Next, we have another malicious file, and the full path is given. So all of these are malicious files, and you can take a look at the details to see why WordPress considers this file as malicious. See here, this file appears to be installed or modified by a hacker to perform malicious activity. If you know about this file, you can choose to ignore it or exclude it from future scans. Take a look at these strings. Of course, these are obfuscated strings, and usually WordPress doesn't use obfuscated strings. That's why WordPress considers the use of obfuscated strings is malicious. Again, we can see obfuscated strings and weird calls to some plugins. Now here, the explanation is that this is a backdoor. Injected local file inclusion. Another example. See these obfuscated strings. Okay, so what you can do about this? All right, now, before we start fixing the site, let's now take a look at these infected files. Okay, so right now I'm in the WordPress installation folder. As you can see, these are the usual WordPress installation files. Now, admin, this file named admin, and options, okay, these are new files because usually WordPress doesn't use such files in the installation folder. So immediately these files stand out for the examination. So we use cat admin PHP to take a look at the contents. And again, guys, look at this. It's all obfuscated strings. Of course, we can spend some time in de-obfuscating the actual, to reveal the actual content, but we are not interested in this, at least on this level. You can copy this file for offline analysis, but right now you want to restore your website as soon or as fast as possible. So that's the first file you want to delete. You can delete the file by using sudo rm admin, and see now the file disappeared. Sometimes when you delete the file gets back. Okay, that's because there is a cron job running on your server to actually create the file every time. So you have to delete the cron job itself. Now we have the options that stands out. So we cat options, take a look at the content, and we see an obfuscated stuff. See, it's all in PHP. Now, some of the things are not obfuscated, such as the print statement, the function names, but the actual content is obfuscated to hide the actual behavior. So ls sudo rm options. Okay, now we have removed two weird files, or actually foreign files, to the WordPress installation directory. Let's now examine the config file. So cat okay, let's see here. Okay, at the very beginning of the config file, we can see a PHP script or PHP one-liner, and it contains sort of, obfuscated string. So right away, to fix this, okay, you can choose to delete this line. So what I would do, I would say sudo nano wp config. Okay, and from here, I would delete this line. All of it. Okay, fine. Now let's take a look at the ht-access. So the ht-access is short and brief and looks like doesn't contain malicious calls or malicious variables or obfuscated strings. So we're going to leave this alone. The next thing we want to take a look at is the index. Again, we have this. Take a look at this. So usually, if you try to open this site, it's going to redirect to somewhere else. Or it's going to call some, in this case, it's calling a CSS file. Probably to change the looking of, or the outlook of the site. So we're going to sudo nano index, and we're going to remove this. This is not how WordPress index looks like. Okay, what is the next place to look at? It is the WP content. Okay, again we have this one, admin. I'm going to cat, take a look, and it's the same file. So we're going to go ahead and remove admin. CD back, so let's see here. So now we have the themes and the plugins and the themes. But before we do that, let's take a quick look at the index file stored here. Okay, so this one is clean. CD plugins. Take a look at the plugins. All of these look like usual, regular, normal plugins, except this. There is no plugin that would look like this or has such a name. So we're going to satisfy the curiosity and take a look at the contents of this plugin. So we have two PHP files. It's very clear that these are Forian files. So we're gonna take a look at these files. Now this one is not obfuscated. Block serialization parser. Fallback. This one is base64. So we have some encoding in this file, and looks like there is an email and there is a subject. So I think this file is responsible to, send updates to the attacker. And the next file, cat y. This one is also not completely obfuscated, so it uses the block editor context class, and we have encoded strings, previous date field. Again, guys, these files will need to be looked at offline after you clean the site. So what I would do, of course, after you copy these infected files to analyze them later, you're gonna have to remove the directory. Okay, now cd to themes. In the themes, all looks good. Let's take a look at the index. Okay, now I know sometimes some malwares write some stuff into the functions file of the theme. So let's go to the theme itself, theme directory, and we take a look at the functions. Usually functions is a target file. So cat functions. Yes, you have to analyze the whole file, make sure it looks as it's supposed to be. So from first inspection, this looks fine for me. Okay, so this is manually cleaning a WordPress site. Now, additionally, you have to take a look at the includes and the WP-admin. Let's take a look. Let's see. A good rule of thumb is to have a clean website, WordPress site, and compare the actual contents. If you want to spot a weird looking file, it's better to compare the actual listing here to a listing of a clean site. So I don't think these files, like this one, KSES and 110N, I don't think these are native WordPress files. Let's take a look at one of them. So it is, let's see. No such file or directory. Let's copy the name. Okay, when in suspicion, what you want to do, you can go here and write WP includes and the name of the file you found. So as you can see in WordPress developer resources, there is an explanation. So it looks like it's a native WordPress file. Okay, that's fine. Let's now take a look at WP-admin. And have a first look. Admin, we saw this earlier. Let's take a look. And this one is the native WordPress admin file. We are taking a quick look here to see if there are obfuscated strings or weird calls. Looks like there is none. Another file you want to take a look at is the users. So cat users. Okay. So I think this one looks okay. All right. Now that is the manual method of examining and cleaning an infected WordPress site. Now after what we've done, most likely the site now is clean. Okay. Let's say you want to clean the site automatically. You want to go back and scan with Wordpress. So in Wordpress, sorry, on this one, there are notes here to malicious files, as you can see under the content, WP-content in the themes, right? In the themes directory. We have actually examined themes, but not fully. But see here, there are malicious files under the themes directory. And we have this one in the uploads under WP-content. So as you can see, guys, it requires a lot of inspection to clean these files manually. So instead, what we can do here, we can go to WordPress. We have 33 malicious files. We can choose to first repair all repairable files. WordPress here will attempt to remove all weird looking strings or obfuscated calls such as these from the file itself. We don't want to break the site, so we start first with repair all files. Okay, so we got only 2 files repaired. Now looks like the next option is to delete all deletable files. Here WordPress will try to delete the malicious files without breaking your site. Now that doesn't mean your site won't break. There is still a chance you will have some problems with functionalities that were connected to an infected file. Nevertheless, if you are not experienced enough for a manual inspection, you can go for this option, delete all deletable files. And now we got this, delete some files with errors. Okay, close. Now let's start a new scan. Okay. All right. Now while the scan is running, let's now inspect another example of a reverse shell lurking in a WordPress site. Okay, in this example, let's say you have downloaded the contents of your WordPress installation here. Now in the example here, if you are suspecting that there is a reverse shell lurking around your site, you want to take a look at the WP content, because most of the time the reverse shell or the attacker would plant the reverse shell in either the plugins or the themes. This time it's actually in the plugins, and there is a file named the plugin manager. I'm gonna open this file with mousepad, and we see, look at this, base64 encoded. So what we can do here, we can take a look, we can copy this and then go to Cyber Chef. From base64, paste, and you have the file decoded. If we copy this file to my local machine and we take a look at the file decoded, we start with an IP address, port. So straightforward, guys, to conclude that this is a reverse shell. There's an IP, there is port, and there is comments that indicate this is a reverse shell file. And there is fsocket open function to connect to the foreign or to the attacker IP and port. So what you would do, you would go ahead and delete the infected file, plugin manager, delete this. Okay, back here. Now we take a look again at the WordPress plugin here, and we see the scan is finished. And after we actually deleted the files and cleaned the site, we can see that WordPress has confirmed there are no infected files anymore in the site. You can then go ahead and examine the site and see how it looks and make sure that everything works as intended. So guys, that was it. I hope you guys find this tutorial helpful if you are suffering from an infection in your WordPress site.